extend my greetings to the staff of Parliament.
Chair, you didn't greet me. I'm hurt.
Okay, I'm still coming.
You're saving the best for last. Okay, no.
I'm still coming to greet you. Don't worry. The staff of Parliament, the team that is led by the Senior Counsel, and members of the media, the honourable members that I have not greeted because I did random greetings of the parties. You are greeted, all of you, Honourable Thopa, Honourable Kolabanat, Honourable Ngola, Honourable Skosana, Honourable Pambo, and the last person that I must greet so that it becomes emphatic is Honourable Matthys. Yeah, the honourable member that is sitting next to you will explain what it means. He will interpret to you. They say, "Muja morago ke kgosi." We have two honourable members who are going to join us later. That is Honourable Shongwe and Honourable Sols. So I have stayed true to the commitment. I spoke to the Senior Counsel this morning so that we can be on the trot the time that we agreed when it strikes. We should be home and dry. So now I'm going to allow you, Senior Counsel and Minister, to run until 13 hours. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair, Honourable Members, colleagues, my colleagues, parliamentary team colleagues, media, and Honourable Minister. Minister, can we just perhaps continue from where we left off? And I was looking at your directive, which is EB4. It's in the bundle, exhibit bundle 3, at pages 49 to 50. You have it in front of you. Your directive. Do you accept that the two reasons that you provided in the directive is at page 50, that last paragraph? You say, my observation in this regard, as indicated above, is that the further existence of the team is no longer required, nor is it adding any value to policing in South Africa. Although those are the two reasons that you gave to the National Commissioner.
Look, there are three directives that I gave. But on this particular one, on the disbandment, I wasn't necessarily getting involved in outlining all the reasons that I had. But this was just an indicator, an indication, if you like, that I could indicate in the letter. But it was not all necessarily, because as you see, this is a very, 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 on all three, they are similar. Just an outline that I could squeeze into the letter, because I wanted it to be very concise and not...
So can we accept that these are some of the reasons, but not all the reasons.
Yes, particularly.
And then perhaps to assist you, the other one would have been the one you contend was discussed in the November meeting on the organizational structure.
That's why
That was also, so that's not here.
and the budgetary issues, and the concerns that were raised by the people that I said to you and your team that they need to be afforded an opportunity. So there's to address the Ad Hoc Committee. So there's a whole range of issues here, but what I wrote there was merely a high-level summary of what I had as a concern, but the actual reasons, I outlined them yesterday, and for your benefit again, I started off with...
I wanted to summarize that for you. Minister, please understand we do have a time constraint. This is our second day, and obviously you're entitled, and that's the
so as long as
space we gave you yesterday. You spent a lot of time on outlining your reasons.
Yeah. As long as we agree that there's a whole range of issues, but I couldn't squeeze all of them there.
I was just addressing to what is here and what you wrote, and what may have been in your mind at the time when you sent the directive. You explained yesterday to the Honourable Committee these other reasons. They've heard you. They will no doubt ask you questions on them. So that is part of the record. Just to summarize, you spoke about budgetary constraints, you spoke about the Haas, you spoke about Mashale, you spoke about Fort Hare, you spoke about Fadil Adams, and then on page 64 of your statement, paragraph 140, you also spoke about some other complaints, which you, perhaps to be fair, you either won't or can't disclose. They may have been conveyed to you in confidence or privately. But in terms of our National Commissioner, who, assuming you were authorized or had the power to do so, to direct that the team be disestablished, what you're telling him is the team is no longer required, it's not adding any value, and that is, as you, to use your words, that is my observation. And then there would have been the other communication of in the one and the other meeting we don't have a minute of, the 24th of November.
Yes, and I want to remind you of the new organogram that I spoke about at length from 2019, based on the study, not just the organogram that has just been signed now, but that was agreed.
The 2019 one.
Yes, yes, proceeding up to the new one that the organogram that we built on the studies that had been done in the department before that. Yeah.
So those would have been the reasons that the National Commissioner would have been aware of at the time that he received your directive, which would have been, I think, on the 2nd or 3rd of January, a few days after your directive. But he wouldn't have been aware of some of the other reasons that you mentioned yesterday. Would that be fair to say that?
No, I wouldn't have been aware of.
No, he wouldn't have been aware of these other reasons.
Like which one?
Sorry?
Like which one?
No, let me put to you what he would have been aware of from what is in this directive. And the discussion you say that took place in November of 2024, which is before the directive, about the status of the unit and where it fits into the picture. And we discussed that. We said, well, it wasn't an express item on the agenda where the PKTT was discussed, but you said it was mentioned. He mentioned it. So he's aware of that. But some of the other reasons like the budgetary constraints, Daas, Mashale, Fort Hare, Fadil Adams, further complaints, you wouldn't have shared those with him.
With
You wouldn't have shared these reasons with the National Commissioner before the 31st of December 2024.
no, Daas and Mashala, they wrote these things, the bulk of them last year. And I did have a discussion with the National Commissioner about them, and I think they wrote letters to the Portfolio Committee last year already. And remember that I also said about Mashale, I even referred some matters, her profile to the IGI to say, I keep on getting correspondence from this lady shortly after I got appointed. So I was aware, and National Commissioner did say, oh, now this lady I'm aware about, she has also shared things with me, but she complains, and we look at what she's complaining about and so on. So I was aware of all these things including, I was aware, and the department, National Commissioner, would have been aware of all these things. I may not have shared everything but with him, but they were aware of them. That includes my main reason, my argument that we may be dealing with something that is outside the PFMA at the end of the day, as I advanced yesterday.
Well, I'll put it to you, and I don't want to debate it any further. The record will speak for itself. That's certainly not the impression we got from the evidence of the National Commissioner.
No, it's...
He said the sum total of his evidence on the directive is that this came as a huge surprise to him. It was never discussed with him. The last time he saw you and you saw him was at, I think it was a parade on the 28th of December, or 28th of December. Sorry, it was apparently, I'm corrected, a funeral. On the 28th of December, you were there. I think it was in KZN, Kunazi was also there. And this, it would seem, would have been a perfect opportunity for you to say to them, although it's obviously not appropriate perhaps at a funeral, but to go aside afterwards or whenever to say, gentlemen, you know, I've been grappling with this thing. I've received all these complaints. I've received these letters from Daas and Mashale. I mentioned it to you in the November meeting, and I am now quite convinced that this team should be disestablished.
Now, that was National Commissioner's evidence. I'm here to give my evidence.
Yeah, sure.
And that is not what I'm saying. I am saying after the 28th, I got more time when I got home to complete what I was developing. After, in those 2 or 3 days, after resting and not going up and down, and I started summarizing in my head and getting to think what I would settle with finally, which then gave rise to me writing that letter on the 31st. I may have on the 28th or before, and you don't normally go to a funeral and then pull people aside. That's unnatural. It can happen only on post-thinking. That you could have pulled people aside, but natural in the flow of things, it doesn't flow like that. But I'm saying there were a number of things that were in my head for quite some time after our meeting on the 21st with deputy ministers, how to approach, how to package, how to engage the National Commissioner. So I had not completed my thinking by that time until I settled down and thought carefully about what I wanted to do.
Well, even more so, Minister, with respect, I mean, you could have at least mentioned to...
We greet you, all of you, Honourable Mathis.
Okay, just on a question of clarity, Minister, did you say you engaged the deputy ministers, both of them, during that time, or did I mishear
Your
you?
presence has not gone
You said there was 2 days. I heard you say something about deputy ministers.
Honourable members, let me
Can
take
I
this
just get
opportunity
clarity,
before we
please?
start
Thank you.
with the proceedings.
Yeah, I'm
And
speaking about a
congratulate,
day when I convened a meeting with the two
Honourable
deputy
Mwango
ministers
and
to
the
discuss
Inkatha Freedom Party
what we had been receiving
for
since we
having
got
had a
appointed,
successful event over
in
the
what
weekend
form
celebrating
and what we had done
the
about
50th
some of the things that we
anniversary, the
received,
Golden Jubilee
and so on. We had a
of the
discussion, and the
IFP.
resolution
Thank you
there
so much,
said,
Honourable Mwango,
go and
all the
engage
best
the National
to your
Commission.
party.
Thank
But
you
we
so
didn't
much,
discuss this,
Honourable Chairperson.
the format and the details. So it was left to me to think what
grade
I would
12 learners in
engage
South
him
Africa
on
are
and
starting
how and all of that.
their
And this is
final
what I say.
examinations today.
I
We
ended
must
up
wish
with
them
the
all
letter
the
of the
best.
31st.
Honourable Minister, when we
As I was about
We
to say,
adjourned
Minister,
on Friday,
even more so on the 28th,
we
it may
agreed
not have
that
been an appropriate
there was an extract that you were going to
moment
send us.
to discuss
The
the demise
extract
of
of
the
that video.
PATT when you just
And the report
buried
that I
one of your
got from our
soldiers.
Yeah,
support
Council.
team is that
There is a hand of Honourable Nomvalo behind.
inquiries have made
Thank you very much, Chair.
with your team,
Chair, I just want to have
and
a
up to
clear
now we
understanding
haven't got
of the
any
response that
positive
has been given
response.
by the Minister to the
So we are
question
going to proceed
about
with
the reasons. Is the
today's
Minister
activities
saying
without that
the
extract.
Commissioner was aware
And
that part
this is
of the
how
reasons that led
the
to
order
the
of the day
disbandment
is going to be.
is what was written by
We are going to
Mary Diaz.
allocate you and the
Or he
SC 2
says
hours between 9
the
o'clock
Commissioner was aware that
and
Mary
11.
Diaz had written something like that,
for you
but
to
he was not
to
aware
conclude
that which
the
she
presentation
wrote
of evidence.
was not part of the reasons that led to the
And then we will
disbandment.
take a comfort
Because
break.
knowing
When we
that
come
Mary
from
Diaz
comfort break,
had a perspective,
we are going to
and
take
that
3 or 4 speakers
her
before 1
perspective
o'clock.
is constituted
They will be
the
asking you
reasons for the
questions.
disbandment are two different
And
things.
then we will
so
take
I just
another
make a clear
break at
distinction
1.
on that. What
When we come
response
back,
is he giving to
we
the
will
council?
take 2 or more
Was he
speakers,
aware of the perspective, or
which
he was
will
aware
take
that
us
the
from 2
perspective
o'clock
of Mary Diaz
until 16
formed
hours.
part of the reasons for the
And then
disbandment?
take another break.
What was
When we
the
come
response?
back,
I just
we
need
will run
clarity on that.
until 18 hours.
Minister,
We will
Thank you very
break
much.
at 18 hours.
I am saying,
And then when we
I
come
settled
back, we
down
run until 20
in those
hours.
2 or 3 days,
At
I
the
brought
time,
back
we
everything
break at
that
20
I had
hours.
come across
We,
since I had
we
been
will make an
appointed.
assessment of the number
What do
of
I do
speakers
with these
that
things? Because
we would
I
have
had to
taken
weigh them
today.
and
And
say,
then if the number
what do I
would
do
be
with them
sufficient in the
in
opinion
order?
of the
Remember,
chairperson,
at the top of my mind
we
is the
can then
imperatives
decide
of
to call
the
it a
7th
day and
administration.
finish
It is the safety
the
of the
business
people.
tomorrow. But in the
It
event
is the
the chair
concerns
is not
that I
satisfied
raised with the
that a
National
sufficient
Commissioner,
number
Deputy National
of members
Commissioners,
has spoken,
and Provincial Commissioners
we may
in
extend
November,
it until
when we met them at Give Screw on, saying,
22 hours
I'm being haunted
23
by murders, the high rate of murders,
or 00
the proliferation
hours.
of firearms in
So I
communities
just
and the
felt
havoc
that,
that these
I should
firearms are
state this
causing, and the
so that we are
drugs
clear, all of
that these
us,
things are
before the
causing. So
commencement of the
I kept on
proceedings,
thinking about these matters
we
very,
intend
very
to
hard,
run,
and very, to the best of my ability in terms of
the
thinking.
activities of today.
And
Thank you so much.
I then say,
With those
settle
remarks,
down.
Senior
What do
Counsel,
I do with
the ball is in your
all
court.
these
Let's
things
start
that
rolling.
I've
Thank you so
collected
much.
in
Thank you,
my
Honourable
capacity
Chair,
as Minister
honourable
of
members,
Police
Minister.
on behalf of the
Good
people of South
morning.
Africa? I then
I think the one
Verity
housekeeping
Haas's
matter
letters and
you've
concerns,
already addressed, that's
Mashala's
the
letters
question
and
that was
concerns and
asked by
everything.
Honourable Malema
The
about
budget, how
exact
we are
timestamp.
using the budget.
in the audio recording
and possible
which, you
alternatives
provided
of using
on
the
Friday,
budget.
Minister, so hopefully
The
get that to us as,
work within SAPS that
that's the
started
clip
way
where
before
you
I
alleged that,
arrived, and
General
what could have
Bonazi
been done, and so on.
threatened you or used threatening
All
language,
that bungle
whichever.
of things
The
constituted
other issue
what I
is
settled
that
down on and
you have
said,
requested us
let me
to
write
play
a letter,
a clip
and
of the
it
5th
must
of
take this
March
particular form.
Portfolio Committee meeting,
And I did indicate yesterday
where
that
again,
one
General
of the
Bonazi
things
had
that
made allegations
came
that you
into my
know,
mind was to say,
Brown
when the
Mokgotsi.
year starts,
Although
how
I
do we
must say,
start
Honourable
in a
Chair,
manner
that
that
it's
brings about
the transcript,
vibrancy
the full transcript
along
of
the
what
lines
he
that
alleged and your response
constitute expectations
is
of the
in the
people
transcript,
on
which
us
is
in a
in
way
bundle 4
that will cause us and
at
force us to,
pages 22 to
engage.
162.
And this
But
is
but
about
you had requested
change.
the exact
How do you go about changing some of the
comply with it.
narratives that should change within SAPS
Otherwise,
in favor of the people
Chair,
of South Africa,
if I may just in
consolidating
advance,
their safety? That is
well,
the matter.
firstly,
That was
apologise
not
to
just
the Minister,
anything that Merit House wrote,
occasionally it might appear
but
that
how do I
me or-
bring all
and
those
or,
things as a collective
Mr. Kilala,
so
we're
that
not
they
paying attention to his responses, where we
they are
trying
put
to exchange some documents.
in a manner that
And today, I think
constitute
it's even worse with the
my
little
reasons when
cramped
met.
space
So
that we
this
have.
is just a high-level summary on the
We
two
also
issues,
work together as a team,
but
so
the
occasionally she would
breakdown of those
either
matters is what I have submitted here.
refresh my memory or ask me something. So it's no disrespect for you. I think it's from us being used to be in court where you always tell the witness, you ask a question, and if you respond, look at the judge.
Not really, Chair, but
Don't
I
look
think
at
as
me.
we continue,
And then in
maybe I'll
that
be
time,
fine.
we might,
But I'm not fine.
in this
Just carry the question
setting,
on your shoulder.
we're looking directly across each other. So,
And
so
at the
no
right time, you can
disrespect
offload it.
is intended, Minister. So we
Senior Counsel,
appreciate
you may proceed.
your indulgence. We're going to deal with all these things 4 topics weighed in the on your mind. time that All we these have factors, available.
You say they
Brown
weigh heavily on your
Mokgotsi,
mind. All these factors, not just the 2 that's mentioned in your letter.
Yes, all these
Matlala,
matters, they constitute the
affidavit,
actual material things
the
behind
appointment of Cedric
those 2 sentences
Gabinde,
that you see, or one
and then,
sentence that you see in those 2 terms.
you
Okay,
wish to highlight
so you
from
don't
your
record that in the letter
affidavit
to say to the National Commissioner,
discrepancies in
there's a host
Bonazi's
of
account.
issues that weigh heavily on my mind.
From a house
And that concern me.
point of view, we also want to point out that
In summary,
the statement that you made about
I've
meeting with the
concluded
President and so on
that the
is
team
not
is no
in your
longer needed
statement.
because it's not adding any value
It could
to
be
policing in
an
South
oversight
Africa.
on
At
the part
least
of,
one
because I
leaves it open-ended
I recall
for you
ironically
to come
enough
back
that
and say, okay,
we
what
added
were
in
these
our
things
draft
that weighed heavily in your mind?
that we
We
presented
don't
to
get
your
that
team.
impression
So
from your letter.
that may
Now, we
explain
discussed
that
the
it's
letter
a
yesterday.
genuine
and you
oversight.
spent quite a bit of time explaining yourself. So we and you
just
also
in
accepted
relation
that you could
to
have phrased
Brown
the
Mokgotsi,
letter
the
differently.
allegations, as I said,
Not necessarily.
it
You
is
remember, you went a long way yesterday on the tone of the letter.
in the transcript.
Yourself, and you even suggested
And you
referred to.
agree that you may have
let me finish. You
let me first ask
suggested
you,
a particular
because you've
format
requested this,
to me,
could we
which
play the
was the same
particular
thing,
clip
but
that
in a
you've
different
requested to
tone.
be-
And I said to you, well, you are putting that in the way you are putting. And then I said, Singakhalisana, I could accept that that could have been a different tone, but it doesn't change anything in terms of the content of what I wanted to convey to the National Commissioner, except that the tone could have been softer. But not that there's anything wrong with my letter legally and constitutionally, and in terms of what I wanted to convey.
And you say you accept full responsibility for this, what's in the letter.
You will recall, colleagues, that
I
we had an incident in Sigigi, a mass murder that happened there.
Who wrote the letter
And the Minister of Police had gone visiting the families and that crime scene. So after this communication,
even assure you that I was so
the Provincial Commissioner called the Chief of Staff,
I don't think
Mr. Nkabini,
anybody ever suggested
the Chief of
that
Staff
you were
of
not,
the Minister of Police.
Yes.
although it's that time of the year.
Yes.
I thought we would start
Can't quite
with
remember what.
my
Yes.
comments on the
But-
5th.
Yeah, I mean, we never
On the
suggested
5th,
that,
yeah.
you're a minister of state and we expect you to be
Minister. The
of
first
sober
clip is
mind,
one of the,
Yes.
the 5th of
especially
March
over
before
this
the
period when
portfolio
you're
committee.
Minister of Police, when
Yes.
there's lots of tragedy and killings and so on. So that's fair comment, and I don't think anybody suggests anything else.
Yes.
Maybe the tone would have been different had you had a couple. Yeah.
Just while
So
we find that
anyway,
clip,
on a
it
more
is
serious note,
on page, it is.
is it also your
exhibit
evidence that
bundle 4,
you were not assisted
the
at all
transcript of
with
the
this
meeting
letter?
of the 5th of March.
There was no
Starts at
one
page
else who
22,
did a draft, or did
and
I
it's
recall you
on
saying that you
the paginated page
that your
143,
advisor may have assisted?
type page
Yes.
119.
In terms of contribution to
And this
the
is when,
letter substance, it was me and
Provincial
Advocate
Commissioner
Pikole.
addresses
And
the
then
committee. His address starts
Chief of
at
Staff
page
was merely conveying,
139.
not contributing in any manner
The reference to
on the
Brown
wedding
is at page
and on any other aspect of the letter.
Okay.
It was just me and the special advisor,
Just you and mainly you and Advocate Pikole.
Advocate Pikole, yes.
Yeah. So when Lieutenant General Mkhunazi tells us that Ngabindi told him that I think he mentioned quite a few drafts were exchanged. He was waiting for the final draft. Would he have referred to the exchange of drafts between you and Advocate Pikole?
Well, I don't know what General Mkhunazi was talking about.
No, he was talking about what Ngabindi told him.
Yes, I don't know what they discussed, whether they discussed up to that. I did have a conversation with Chief of Staff in terms of the substance of what they discussed, and he gave me a different version, which I will go to later on. But what I do know is that they did speak.
So, just to round off on the directive,
we must be very circumspect when people come to us.
at the time, had you sought or been given legal advice on whether you could issue this kind of directive?
At the time of right, or
At the time that you drafted and wrote this directive with the assistance of your special advisor?
I didn't go wider than the special advisor because he happens to be an advocate. To say,
And Minister, is that the clip
what
you
is your
wanted
first
played?
impression
And
on this letter in terms of
sounds
the
like it
Constitution
corresponds
and in terms
with
of
your response to the
legislation?
portfolio committee,
And he didn't doubt,
which
he
is
had
at
no
page
doubt
160
that it is within the Constitution
paginated
and
papers
it
at
is
136 of the
within the
typed
legislative
pages.
framework.
from about line.
Because it's apparent from the letter that you,
Where
at
you
the time
said,
when you drafted
but I
the
think
letter
I picked up
and
something
signed the
that
letter,
Provincial Commissioner
that is your
Mkhwanazi
signature there, is it?
is saying about some fellow
My signature.
2 weeks
there on
ago,
the-
and he does
at the
happen
end
in
of the
a week,
letter.
2 or 3.
Definitely, it's my
I think a week
signature.
and a half ago, I
So-
got somebody
so at
insisting
that time you
that there's
accepted
somebody going around
that you
saying he
need
works
to
with
provide
me
some reasons
wherever I
to the
am.
National Commission
He
as to
is
why
there. I said, show
you're
me the
issuing this
face.
directive.
And it got to a
Yes,
point he
but
showed me the face. and
let
I
me
told
just
him,
indicate
I don't know this
something
person.
that will interest you and the other comment.
And
I wrote the letter and
just earlier,
as I wrote, and after completing the letter, I was envisaging
yeah,
a meeting
we've
that
already
is
referred to
the
Mkhwanazi got a phone call.
letter where we would discuss, have a first
That's at page
discussion.
143.
That's why I put a date on the 20th to
From
say
line
forward me with the kind of an
13,
interim
He said,
response,
this is
and
Mkhwanazi,
then a fuller
on 29
engagement.
October,
at a later stage at UNESCO.
I received a phone
I
call,
was
Chair, a
firm
phone call and a message
and
that came
clear
from a gentleman
that we would
who said
need to
me
discuss some
he
aspects.
is a close associate
But
of the minister.
those things were
of the police,
somehow,
and that
or
is
to a
Mr.
great
Brown. He
extent,
referred to himself
affected
as
by
Brown
what I will
Bohotsi.
talk about later.
This
But
Mr. Brown Bohotsi,
as I
who
said
described
yesterday,
himself as a
I
close
didn't envisage my
associate
directive
to the minister,
as a
indicated to me,
drill.
which
in
made
the
me
context of a drill
believe
situation.
that it is a close
I
associate of
envisaged
the
it
minister.
in
Because
the
he said to
context
me he
of
was joining
what
the Minister of
happens
Police
in
to
a
visit
work situation
the Sikhi
when
massacre,
you
and that
are
that happened last
at
year,
work
and because
with
I did not trust him, I
the
called
Director General,
the Chief of Staff
that you do engage
to try and establish who
even on
is this
difficult
gentleman.
matters.
And the
But
Chief of Staff
I'm aware that
did confirm
it then brought
to
in
me
a
that
difficult
indeed
situation.
he
But
is a very person
when
close
in a
to
work
the
work
Minister of
situation a
Police.
difficulty arises, that's
But what
where
surprised
you
me about this
get the
gentleman
best,
is that he then
the best
indicated to
in
me on a
terms of
message that he
how the
sent me
people
when he
you work
said
with
there is an
behave.
internal
That's where they
attempt to
get an
discredit me through
opportunity
the
to
defeating the ends of
display
justice.
even what is
Yes.
internal
Anyway,
within them. Not when there's a
the rest
normal,
is not
you have a normal
particularly
situation at work.
relevant.
A lot of things get suppressed
So
in terms of you knowing
you
exactly
also wanted
the kind of people
to
that you work
deal.
with.
But
The people you work with,
you
and
also wanted
especially
to
whom you
deal with
give-
your responses.
if you're in a position,
which,
if you're in a higher position
is
of authority,
that you gave to the ethics committee.
the way they
You
behave
recall
and
that there
the
was
way
a
they
complaint
respond
that was
would
lodged by
often depend on the
Honourable
way
Member
you
Schikkeling,
address them, isn't it?
which
And the tone
to the committee
of any
and your
letter or
if you could just
instruction
turn
or
to
directive,
annexure
the way it's written.
SM2 at page
Not necessarily.
540.
It doesn't.
It's
there's a
annexure
difference
in volume
between
2 to your
reasoning
witness statement.
things out and
you have it in front of you?
the way you respond to a situation emotionally. There's a difference. I'm not talking about emotions. I'm talking about substantive reasoning when you have matters before you, how
at
you
page
react at that
541.
level of reasoning and rationalizing on things.
This is from your
I am
affidavit,
certain. I am certain that I dealt
paragraph
more
8.
on the aspect of
You
rationalizing
reference
things out
the exact
with a
time of the
view
recording.
to bringing something that would change the way in which South African Police Service render services to the people of South Africa, towards improvement, towards realistically responding to the concerns that people raise throughout, including the portfolio committee. Beyond saying we have noted your concerns, we are noting your concerns, but we end up not doing, in essence, not doing anything that would change their concerns. And I'm lighthearted when it comes to what people have to say to you in terms of their expectations as a minister at a national level. They have huge expectations. And I'm saying this in a situation where perceptions are very, very, very strong outside that we're not doing enough for their safety in South Africa. So you are on the spotlight. You have to think even beyond what is happening. I mean, you can't just keep on saying, yeah, the budget is small. Yeah, the number of police has been reduced. We should be having 200. Those reasons are fine. You can advance them ordinarily when you talk because they are true. But when you sit down and think and reason deeply about your responsibility and people say, you don't seem to be doing enough. Look at our police station here. Looking at the equipment, even people inside SAPS saying, we are behind criminals in terms of equipment and all of those things
Minister,
make you think seriously.
Minister, all that you're saying, it seems to me, demanded a serious discussion with the National Commissioner for all the reasons that you mentioned.
Yeah.
It seems to me to demand a serious discussion.
Yes.
And consultation.
Yes. And this is what we've been doing throughout the period after I got appointed.
There's a fundamental difference of view of the evidence that we've heard today. And for example, the two key people involved in this task team were never ever consulted about it, and that is Khumalo and General Mkhwanazi. They are the two people directly concerned. I mean, this directive, it doesn't even speak directly to this organogram or the structures in the police. It is directly aimed at three things: ports of entry, intelligence, and political task teams.
Yeah.
So I don't know who you speak to about ports of entry, maybe Home Affairs and maybe speak to them, because they also have a role to play there and they should be consulted. Of course, intelligence, there's nothing that we hear from you that they were engaged or that the director of intelligence, who also happened to be Khumalo or Sabia, that they were engaged in all of this. There's no indication from you.
Now, don't be under the impression that when I got appointed, the next thing I did was to write directives. And the next thing that happens, I'm in the commission, I'm in the ad hoc committee. It didn't happen that way. You may have just been introduced in the situation and the challenges that we're having, but we had many discussions since I got appointed. I did indicate that the orientation which got elevated to discussions, which got elevated to decisions, took place. I've had before leave more than 28 meetings, more than that with the leadership of SAPS, and more than 9 meetings with National Commissioner alone. Now, it's another thing to say, what were we discussing? But I'm making it sound serious that I've had those meetings. And throughout those meetings, we were discussing serious stuff, serious issues. All of these things that you're mentioning, that Khumalo, National Commissioner, we have had discussions with them, even on just intelligence alone. And therefore, all the matters that are in my directive or in my directives were discussed. What was not discussed with them is the directives themselves. I have said I didn't discuss directives with anybody else before I wrote them. I wrote them, but the matters that constitute substance behind each of those directives are well known to the people that you're mentioning.
Well, can we just leave it there? And I'm sure honourable members of the committee will ask you more on this, but there's just fundamental disagreement that you at any stage discussed specifically the political task team and your thoughts about it before the directive was issued on the 31st of December 2024.
I have indicated very patiently that I could not discuss these directives with anyone for reasons that I've advanced. One of them, I've indicated that some of the people that are involved here were people who raised fundamental concerns with their safety. And I had to think, how do I, on one hand, bring them on board, and on the other hand, process their situation, which was convincing to me, was a fundamental issue to me. How do I combine the two? That's why I said at the beginning of the year, there was some thoughts about an inquiry, ministerial inquiry, because I couldn't ignore those things that they discussed. So I have made quite a serious attempt to convince you that I was in no position to discuss the actual directives with anyone before I wrote them, nor did I have the opportunity because I was working and then I had only 2 or 3 days. And that when I did so, there was nothing constitutionally wrong. There was nothing legislatively wrong. And I checked that. But I do want to say to Evidence Leader, Senior Counsel, National Political Killings Task Team is not all about policing in South Africa. It's not everything about policing in South Africa. There is a lot outside there. In fact, everything outside is, I don't have an English word. It's just part. Remember, this is not even a unit. It's a team. How much importance do you can't say it's a national priority work done by a team, important as it was, and having contributed as they did, but it's not. It can't be made a national priority on policing in South Africa amid the challenges that we have.
Now, Minister, your lawyers responded to a request for information that we put to you, and there was a response on the 1st of October. It's the response you'll find, it's at Exhibit Bundle 4, pages 1 to 13. And amongst the responses is at page 4, under the heading Relevant Facts Preceding the Disestablishment. So the first one was on 31 October, several letters of complaint from Ms. Mary De Haas. On the 6th, there was again an official complaint that she registered with the Portfolio Committee on Police. Then you referred to the emails and text messages from a former SAPS official, Ms. Patricia Mashale. You also took into account media reports involving, regarding the involvement of crime intelligence in the murder of politician Mr. Sindiso Motaka. Then on 13 November, a complaint to the NPA from Member of Parliament, Mr. Fadil Adams. And then you say on November, your Chief of Staff, Mr. Nkabinde, addressed a letter to IDEC regarding the allegations made by Mr. Adams. And following the above detailed complaints, on the 21st, you convened a meeting with the Deputy Ministers of Police to discuss the allegations. Then further on, you also mentioned on 22 November, you convened a meeting attended by the Deputy Ministers, the National Commissioner, Deputy National Commissioners, and all the provincial. Although you do indicate here, the purpose of the meeting was to discuss the Ministry's deep concern on, namely, the murder rate, escalation of firearms, including illegal firearms, drugs, and GBV plus F, gender-based violence. There's no mention here of you discussing the political killings task team, and then you go on to mention budgetary complaints and the work study. So many of these things mentioned in this information note from your lawyers incorporate some of the reasons that you discussed yesterday. Now, firstly, they're not in your directive, your letter, as some of the reasons. And also, there's nothing in here which tells us that you had consulted or specifically spoken about this to either the National Commissioner or Mkhwanazi or Khumalo, who were heading this task team. What is interesting in the note, you say a decision was taken at the meeting on the 21st of November that you held with your deputy ministers, that the minister would engage the National Commissioner on the concerns regarding the allegations against the NPKTT. And then there's nothing after that. On the 22nd of November, it wasn't discussed in the meeting. So on this note, can you confirm that you did not discuss it with the National Commissioner before you issued the directive on the 31st of December?
That I didn't discuss the directives with him?
No, not the directive. Some of the reasons that inform your decision to issue the directive.
No, I didn't discuss the directives with anyone, including...
No, we accept that. I'm not going to argue with you about whether or not you had the prerogative or the right to issue the directive. I'm discussing what informs the directive, and we've been through the directive. There's two reasons that's apparent from the directive. You then also mentioned that there's other reasons that inform the directive. You've mentioned that you have a full opportunity of explaining that to the committee. I'm asking specifically about discussing your reasons for wanting the task team terminated with the National Commissioner and with Mkhwanazi and Khumalo.
Now, I have indicated many times yesterday, I did, that the directives were an accumulation of issues that we had been discussing and things that had been things that I'd been getting to know in the department. In other words, when I was appointed, I didn't just settle on the 31st. There were many discussions. There were many things that I read and that I got to know in the process before. So they were, and throughout the period, I've been discussing with all the people that are involved, but not with the intention that one day I would write a letter of directives. So it's absolutely not correct to say I had not discussed with this. And on the three generals that you are talking about,
right.
Now, your assistant keeps on engaging you when I speak. When you speak, she doesn't engage you. I don't engage with anyone.
No, sorry. Yeah. My apologies, Minister. You're right. You should be.
Okay. So the impression I'm getting is that my response is not important, but what you say to me is important. And I have a problem with that. So I'm saying, I did say yesterday, I did not have any particular meeting with General Khumalo, General Masimula, General Mkhwanazi, and General Khumalo. And in a day focusing on the National Political Killings Task Team. There's no such. But discussions include that fall within all the terms of reference. And discussions about this did take place in the meetings that we had. One of them is on the 1st of November. One of them is on, I think, the 22nd of November, the minutes of which I didn't get. I'm still seeking. So it's not like I never had any discussion with anyone on the matters. These are challenges that are within SAPS. These are challenges that we've been discussing. These are challenges that everybody in the top management of SAPS is aware of and have been discussed, but not with a view to writing directives. Those are mine, and those I sat down to think about, and I came up with them, as I say.
Minister, I was asking you about your response, which I must accept and assume your lawyers were instructed by you. And in your response to us on the 1st of October,
Yes.
there is no mention, despite the fact that you held a meeting with your deputy ministers to discuss the allegations and other issues in the South African police.
Yes.
Despite the fact that there was a decision taken, according to this note, at that meeting,
Yes.
that the minister would engage the National Commissioner on the concerns regarding the allegations. Despite the fact that your lawyers write on the 22nd of November that there was a meeting
Yes.
between the ministry, the National Commission, and all the senior police, you never discussed the task team. This is is this note wrong? Is there a mistake? Because it doesn't accord with what you told us yesterday and what you are insisting on today, that you discuss this matter at least with the National Commissioner. You seem to today even to be saying you discussed it ever with Nkonazi or Kumalo.
If the letter does not necessarily pick up the meeting of the 1st of November and the meeting of the 22nd, it doesn't mean that it didn't exist. It doesn't mean that it never happened. And it doesn't mean that we never discussed it. It just means that there was an omission in the letter.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm not referencing the letter at all. I'm referencing a response that was given to us as evidence leaders by your lawyers on the 1st of October. And there's nothing in this response which says that you consulted